It's the Nutshack. 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 It's the Nutshack.
Welcome to the Wacky Wack Wack Wacky Wacky Wack Wack. Welcome to the Wacky Wack Tex Avery.
Are you just doing this to keep the #1 spot a surprise? No. I genuinely find The Wacky World of Tex Avery to be the worst cartoon of the 90s. But how could it be worse than The Brothers Grunt or even Mega Babies? Well, it's kind of like why I find Screams of Silence the worst episode than Ren Seeks Help. Sure, if we're talking objective quality, then Mega Babies is worse by far. But the implications behind this show genuinely offend me. This show claims to be a homage to Tex Avery. If you don't know, and if you're interested at all in animation, then you should know, Tex Avery is one of the most influential cartoonists of all time. Not as big as Walt Disney, but someone you could consider a close second. This was the man who made Bugs Bunny who he is today. The same thing with Porky Pig. On top of that, he invented Daffy Duck and Droopy. Actually, I don't think that summarizes even half of his achievements. Any cartoon with a more energetic and out there style, as opposed to the down-zero stories of many Disney cartoons, could be attributed to Tex Avery's influence. Shows like SpongeBob and Freakazoid. Things like The Genie from Aladdin, and so much that would take an entire retrospective to go over everything that he did in his lifetime. It's safe to say that the landscape of animation would look vastly different without him. He pretty much invented anything that you think of as a classic cartoon gag. The endless chases, the eyes popping out of their sockets, the extreme use of explosives, characters walking out off of a cliff before they realized what was going on and gravity set in. He had the belief that cartoons could and should do anything. Each one of the gags that I mentioned, they can be found in this show, but each of them are butchered beyond all belief. If you're wondering, Tex Avery had nothing to do with this show. He was dead when this show came out. Well, nothing to do with the show is a bit of an exaggeration. They made him a character in this piece of shit that looks nothing like Tex Avery, that acts nothing like Tex Avery was reported to do. In fact, this Tex Avery kind of acts like the wolf from Red Hot Riding Hood, which is portrayed as a villain. But this is a good guy in this show because a lack of competence was a requirement to work on it. I want to make it clear that my dislike of the show goes beyond moral outrage. It is legitimately an awful show. Tex Avery's jokes work because of very fluid animation and attention to detail. The jokes in the show are so slow, and in a slapstick cartoon, timing is everything. But the timing here is awful. Not a single joke lands like it should. On top of that, all the characters are forced to stay on model when they're paying homage to a man who had a specialty for giving characters very exaggerated expressions. One thing celebrated about Tex Avery is that he made animations that appeal to both kids and adults. Besides being too slow-paced to appeal to kids, this show starts off with a theme song laced with bodily noises and fart sound effects, and basically makes dribble. This is paying homage to the man who made Red Hot Riding Hood. This show is the animation equivalent of farting at a funeral. Intentionally. And can we talk about how bad the lip syncing is in this introduction? Not that the rest of the show is much of an improvement. With the repeating Hanna-Barbera style backgrounds and the stilted animation, I would have sworn that this show came out in the 70s. Its quality is that pitiful. But you couldn't have made this show in the 70s because Tex Avery was still alive then, and he probably wouldn't have liked this blatant insult to his life's work. I mean, with other person-based shows on this list, sure, they were terrible, but at least the people were alive to give permission. And even if they didn't get permission, at least they were alive to defend and distance themselves. This is the worst kind of homage. It appeals to no one. It's too stilted and slow for kids to enjoy, and it's too juvenile and stupid for adults to enjoy. I've actually been trying to do a review on this series for quite some time, but each episode is so devoid of substance that I can't sustain a review with this show. And they made 65 episodes of this piece of shit. 105 individual cartoon segments. I'd go into more detail, but even thinking about this show for more than a few seconds pisses me off beyond belief. It gets even worse when you learn that the only reason the show exists is because Tex Avery's daughter needed to pay for a kid's college, and you realize how little one of the most revolutionary cartoons of all time made in his life. And to make matters worse, the producers tried to offer her a paltry sum, pointing out that it was a kindness that they were even asking her permission at all. It took her enlisting the help of Chuck Jones to actually get a reasonable amount of money for this train wreck, because the people behind this show were determined to put in as little work and money into the show as possible. This is #1 on the list because it has the least reason to exist. There was no reason to make this, and there's no reason to watch this. If you're into the gross out stuff, you might like Mega Babies. I can't see anyone liking this show, beyond a so bad it's good kind of way. Even then, it's not like The Room, Stupid, or Tentacolino Strange. It's not the most bad show of the 90s, it's the least good. There is not one single good quality in this whole damn show. Fuck, at least the Nutshack has some memes going for it. Mega Babies had more of a reason to exist in this show. If you wanted to make money off of Tex Avery's name, all you had to do was show his old cartoons. It would take less effort, and you know what? They actually did that. A few years after this show, they made the Tex Avery show, and instead of putting together mediocre garbage, they actually showed Tex Avery cartoons. It might not have been the best way to do things, but anything is better than this. I understand some of my harsher feelings against the show may be coming with my own current feelings of death, and the idea of legacy and how important that actually is. But even when they wear off and I escape my existential quandary, I think that I'm still gonna be mad at this show for basically insulting the work and name of a dead man. Producers and marketing hacks are known for being soulless, butchering creativity while feeling contempt for the people who keep them afloat. And this show is a summation of everything that is wrong with them. I complain about them doing things like running SpongeBob and Family Guy into the ground, or tailoring shows like the Powerpuff Girls to virtue signal and sell toys. But this quite frankly disgusts me beyond all of that, and more than any gross out show ever could. Now I'm going to leave this decade behind with its old outdated trends and go to my home decade with its twerking and internet memes. I will see you next time after I've washed the taste of this drench out of my mouth.
It's the Nutshack.